Hey folks, how's it going? Today we're going to do a little bit of a review of a spec that doesn't get as much love in the PvE world, Arms Warrior. So we're going to start off with a raid build, which is actually a ton of fun if you actually haven't spent a lot of time yet. So for me, my warrior is with Venthyr. I really enjoy the condemn effect, so remember that this build is built around that. Um, if you're not actually going with the Venthyr Covenant, then you gotta look at a whole bunch of other options. Skull Splitter, Rend, Avatar, all become options that I would actually recommend. But if you are with the Venthyr Covenant and you've got Condemn on your side, oh, hang on. So tier 1, you're going with Sudden Death, just having the opportunity to have an additional Condemn beyond the first 20% of a boss's health and the last 35% make a huge difference. So you're just absolutely slapping. Makes it a lot of fun. I consciously have been playing a lot of arms PvE in raids as far as this build goes. As far as warrior talents go, again, you won't need Stormbolt, so I'll carry this into like a Mythic Plus, or if I'm in the open world or PvPing, but double time just for the added mobility. It still makes a big benefit to us today. Massacre, kind of alluded to that earlier. Being able to use Condemn or your Execute on targets below 35% health, just there's no competition for that. Tier 4, I'm going with Bounding Stride. Again, like having it on reduced cooldown, having some increased mobility, never hurt us whatsoever. Sticking with Warbreaker, on Tier 5, like you can play with this a couple different ways. Cleave just is an additional global that's there. Collateral damage, really you're not taking advantage of sweeping strikes very often, so stick with Warbreaker. Again, tier 6, this is where there's a little bit of a difference. You'll actually see us use Deadly Calm, and that's just to make life very easy. If you can line that up and just be able to deliver a ton of condemns back to back to back, makes a huge difference. Honestly, load up on it. Then finally, Dreadnought. One of the real benefits, if you are going with an arms build, is that you can set yourself up with the Exploiter Legendary, and then between the Dreadnoughts, the Condemns, the Deadly Calm, your Mortal Strikes will slap as well, and you'll see you'll be getting some pretty massive numbers even without crit. So keep that in mind. It's a ton of fun out there. So that's our build for raiding. Now, if we switch it over to dungeons, things start to look a little bit differently. So taking a break from Sudden Death, we actually pull Skull Splitter back into our kit. Sticking with double time, it really depends on what kind of dungeon it is and what other utility you have in the group. Sticking with double time might not hurt, but Stormbolt, bring it in as you need. I always choose to bring it in whenever I get the option. Warbreaker and Avatar, you can play with those as you want. I prefer Warbreaker, but it just depends on what the group is looking like. If you're looking for a larger build, what you might want to do is go like 3. This comes down to utility again, but I'm going 3-3. 1, continue to stick with the Massacre. It's the huge difference maker, just being able to deliver your condemns or your executes, depending on what covenant you're with. Bounding Stride for tier 4. Now it comes down a little bit differently here. I really enjoy Warbreaker. I like the AoE damage that's there, and I like just being able to increase the damage that I'm about to put on enemies by 30%. I think that's massive. However, Cleave you can definitely use a lot more often with only a 6-second cooldown. So go with the Cleave for your tier 5 play. Again, it kind of comes back. Avatar will give you a greater burst, allow you to get out of some roots. So I go with Avatar for tier 6. And then it's a little bit more of a toss-up. Dreadnought is what I'd recommend, but you can go with Anger Management as well if that's your preferred space. Now finally, if you are just down to personal preference, you want to have a little bit of fun with arms out in the open world, this is how I would probably recommend running with the breakdown. You can go with War Machine. It's really passive, especially if you're new to the spec. Check that out. Again, double time if you prefer the additional mobility, but remember that intervene's there, so you've got a charge and an intervene and a bounding stride, so there's a ton of mobility here for you. Massacre, that's just a staple of our build, so looks really good. You can stick with Cleave if you want. For me personally, I prefer Warbreaker. It's one less global that we need to manage, and it's just really nice from a punchiness perspective. In the open world, Avatar or Deadly Calm, totally up to you, whatever you necessarily prefer to. It's nice to have your max rage topped up though. You can do some pretty creative damage if you get creative with that. And then finally again, Dreadnought is the recommended talent, although you could go with more of an anger management build if you really want to go with some passives. But if you're just starting off, you'll find that Dreadnought, having the second charge available, does make life a lot easier on you. So kind of keep that one in mind. From a Covenant perspective, you heard me mention it earlier, I really prefer Venthyr. I think they're the absolute best for raiding. I know they don't get the title of best for Mythic Plus. That looks like it's going to Night Fae based on all of the research that we've seen so far. It's just a ton of fun. Like, Venthyr with its condemn is so powerful that it's still one of the highest priority attacks, even with multiple targets present. So being able to cast it more offers a real advantage compared to some of the other builds that exist. It really comes down just to what your talents are, and again, I recommend that talent build that we had for raiding before. But if you don't have Massacre on your third talent row, then Condemn actually gets a lot less valuable. So for me, like, Massacre is the staple. That's not to say that Venthyr is terrible in Mythic Plus. Still quite strong. Even against 5 targets, they really slap one. It's if you've got your sweeping strikes up, it'll hit actually too. So it's not a wasted ability in Mythic Plus. It's just not maybe as powerful as what we see between, like, Ancient Aftershock makes a huge difference. So that's kind of the quick and dirty ones that are there. As far as best legendaries go, my preference is to go with the Executioner. So having Condemn, causing the target to take 36% more damage from your next mortal strike, stacking up to 2 times. You combine that with the buff that you get from applying Overpower and line it up with a couple DPS cooldowns that you want to drop, whether it's your trinket or whether it's your racials, and you can absolutely pump. It makes a huge difference. For me, that's the go-to, but I play a lot of PvP as well. Additionally, if you're a little bit more casual, Signet of Tormented Kings makes a ton of damage, not only for Venthyr, most commonly for Venthyr, but also as an arms and a fury. So if you're a player who kind of jumps between both specs, Signet of Tormented Kings makes a huge difference, really, especially because how it impacts Bladestorm, Recklessness, Avatar. It's a really nice kind of complement to each other. So consider keeping that in your kit. It's a really strong, not always predictable, but it's a strong legendary to go with. So again, my recommendations: Signet of Tormented Kings if you like playing both specs. Exploiter, certainly if you're going with PvP. It's the must go to. Ton of fun. Like, just dropping big damage. Nice to see it. All right, that's kind of it for now, folks. Check it out. Let me know what your preferred build is that you like going with. I like seeing those 11,000 crits, but keep enjoying the game. Let me know what's good, what you'd like to see different, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Later.